What's going on, guys? I have finally finished filming the tutorial for the Art Morrison Max G chassis build. In this tutorial, I will be giving the tools you will need for the job, the plastic materials that you will need to do the build of this chassis, some of the differences between the chassis. I will also be showing you the measurements, or how to measure your car, and drawing a template out to follow. I'll also show you how to bend plastic without heating it, and the points to where you need to cut the plastic and bend to your template. And last but not least, I will show you the proper steps to the construction of your chassis. There is a formula for the madness, and I do highly recommend that you follow it. The tutorial will be over 40 minutes long. Alright, for this step of the tutorial, we are going to be drawing the chassis out. You will have two drawings for this, an overhead shot and a side view of the chassis. But before we begin that, we're going to have some measurements. You're going to have to know the length of your car. You're going to have to know your wheelbase. You're going to have to know your inside measurements of your car, and you're going to have the center. I've already marked everything out that I need to mark out on the car itself, exception for the center. You will also need to know where your firewall is, the beginning of your toe board, the width of your front frame rails, and the height of your front frame rails. You will also have to make sure you know your tire sizes. This is very important, and I'll explain it here in a few minutes. The first thing is, we're going to go ahead and mark this out. All you have to do is mark out your rear, your wheel well openings, your center and your wheel well openings where your tire will be, tire center I should say. If you do not have a frame, then you'll have to do your research and guess at it. If you do have a frame, then I would suggest mocking your frame up and marking it that way. And of course, to get your inside lines, all you have to do is put your body down, reach in, and mark it. And don't be afraid to label everything. This is wheel center right here. Actually, it's pretty good idea to mark everything. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this, put some lines on here, and I'll be right back. Alright, now we have some lines on here. The dash lines, these are centers. That's the center of the rear wheel. That's the center of the front wheels, and this is the center of the car itself. Now, not every vehicle is going to be the same. Some vehicles, they have a channel running down through here. It's part of the rocker. So if you have a channel, all you have to do is measure between the channels, and this is going to be your width of your frame. If you don't have a channel and you want to check pictures of real cars, because not all models will add this channel in there, you're going to want to add the channel in if it doesn't have it on the model. If it doesn't have it, then you're going to want to just take your plastic, set it up here, and from this point to that point, that will be your frame width. So I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. To both sides. So now here we go. I now have my outside of the frame. The next step would be measuring your front. Now remember, I told you about the toe board. You're going to want to come in just a little bit, because you don't want your frame to be right up even with your toe board. So you're going to want to come in just a little tiny bit for the mark. Your rear part of your frame, you're not going to want to come all the way to your rear wheel wells. You're going to want to come in quarter of an inch, somewhere in between there, and put a mark. So this is where I'm going to put it. It's not rocket science, so if you don't have it totally perfect, it's alright. You just have to have things close. So there's the outside box to the frame. Now, frame, as you can see, has a lot of curves to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the curves to the main body frame. And all I do here is just take a hobby knife, take the end off, set up there, and draw my curve. So there's that. Alright, I got the main frame drawn out. Now the next step is setting your X-frame and your rear frame rail. In order to do that, you're going to have to know your tire size. And it's pretty simple to do. All you have to do is set your body up here, get your tire, if it doesn't roll away on you, in place. Reach in here and mark it. And you only have to mark the inside of the tire, you do not have to mark the outside. And from here, you will set your rear frame. And when you do set your frame, make sure there's some space between your tire and the frame. You don't want your frame rubbing. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out my rear frame. I only need to draw one side, I do not need to draw both sides at this point. And this is going to be my rear frame rail. your X-frame will also connect right here. I don't know why every frame I've seen, the X-frame, rear frame rail, always connect at the same point. Now, to do your X-frame, the main thing is finding your center. I found my center here, and your distance between your X-frame is about 3/8 of an inch. It can be a little more if you want. I wouldn't really go less, but you can go ahead and measure from your center 3/16 of an inch, and I'm just going to guess at this one. So we're going to go right about there. We're going to go ahead and draw a line. And there's your start of your X-frame. Now, not all X-frames are the same. Some X-frames, this piece here is longer, some are shorter. This is actually one of the shorter ones of the ones that I've seen. So you're going to have to, like I said before, do your research on your car and find out. If you're not real technical, then you don't have to worry about it. So another thing you want to remember, frames do not always connect in the same spot up here. Some of them connect right here in the center, some connect closer to your front frame rails. So we're just going to kind of guess at this one. I'm not going to copy it. So we're going to go right about here, and we're going to bring this up. Till it connects. Same thing here. Now, when you're doing the front one thing you're going to want to know your motor and transmission, where it sets in there, because you're not going to want your X-frame bend coming clear up here, by your motor block. You're going to want it back a little bit, and you don't want it too far where you have a really wide transmission mount. So you want to know your placement of your motor, and we're just going to say placements here, transmission mounts right here. So we're going to want to bend back here a little bit. So you go ahead and draw your line. Now, you do not have to do the full width of your frame here. The only thing you really need is your outside measurements. Your main frame, that's a little different story. You do need the full width on it. Your front and rear frame rails, same thing. You do not really need the full width. If you don't do the full width, you have to have the outside marks for your frame rails, so you know you have enough space between your tire and your frame rail. The next step is drawing out your front frame rails. Now your front frame rails, what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to know the outside width, and you're going to want to know the highest point from the top down. So I'm going to just guess it here. I don't remember what it was for my car, but for this time, because it's just a tutorial, I'm going to guess the width. And for the overhead, all you're going to do is do straight lines for this front and rear frame. It's the side view where you'll be drawing them out to shape. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind, not all front frame rails are the same. The one for the Fairlane here comes straight back. For the one for the Charger I did, comes back and curves right here. And connects right there instead of coming straight back. So keep that in mind. Alright, the next step is putting in your exhaust tubes. Now, exhaust tubes do not go straight back like this. They're actually offset a little bit. The front ones are closer to your front frame rails, where your rear ones are closer to the inside of your X-frame. Alright, we've gotten the main body frame, the X-frame, the front and rear frame rail set, the exhaust tube set. If you want, you can go ahead and put your cross pieces here. You don't have to. They don't always go in the same spot in every car, so you want to, like I said before, research your frame before doing it. And there's your overhead shot. You don't need the whole frame drawn out. All you need is the main body and half the other frame. Now let's get to work on the top frame, the side view. And all you do, you just go up where your frame is, because we already drew out the center lines and the front and the rear and all this stuff. For your next frame, you just come up, put a little mark. Same thing for the front. And there's your main body frame. Alright, we're going to go ahead and do the front frame rails, and we're going to want to know the distance from your high point of the top for your frame rail down to the bottom. If you have your frame, it's pretty simple to do. You just measure it out. I'm just going to use a piece of plastic, mark it here. Put a mark right there, another mark right there, and draw a line. Now, not all frame rails are the same. Some frame rails, like this one, are perfectly straight, and the others, they have a slight angle upwards. On the Charger I did, they angled up, and you come about here, and then they bend down just a little bit. A lot of it depends on which car it is and whatnot. One thing when you're looking to do your front frame rails, you're going to want to know where your upper and lower control arms connect and know where the center is. Now on this car, the control arm starts right here, real close to the bend. So we're going to, here's the center, here's the upper control arm. Bend will start right about here. So we're going to go ahead and draw this line. And we're not going to draw completely to here because we have this toe board, so we're going to have to come out a little bit. Here's the first line. This line. Now remember, I already had this here, So I'm going to go ahead and draw this out. Alright, so now I got the main body, the front frame rails done. Now it's time to do the back. Not all back frame rails are the same. This one here comes out, up, down, almost to a point here, then down and back to the trunk area. The Charger, if I remember right, came up, then it came across before coming down and back to the trunk area. So, you know, you're going to have to know what one you're doing. It doesn't have to be that way. If you're doing a Pro Street with an Art Morrison frame, then you can do pretty much any style rear frame that you want. Just get online and search Pro Street frame, and you'll get tons and tons of pictures. This one here, I'm just going to make it simple. I'm going to put a mark right here for demonstration purposes. One thing before I go on, remember I told you to keep this rear frame back from your tubs. Well, here's your tubs right here. Now you're going to want to bring your frame out to the edge of this. Before going up. And drawing the rear frame out is actually one of the more simpler things to do. Now when you're doing your rear frame, remember, when you start coming down, this does not come down all the way to there. This comes down only part way because your trunk lid, or your trunk lid, yeah, your trunk floor is not all the way down to the very bottom of the car. You have your gas tank area and all this other stuff to keep in mind. So So here we are. There's your frame. You're ready to go. Also, when you're doing your rear frame, keep in mind the type of suspension you're going to use. If you're going to do a 4-link, you're going to want to leave space between your exhaust tube and your rear frame rail. If you don't leave it between those, then you're going to have space here. And if you do a 3-link, then you're going to have to add another piece in. Basically, you just bring a tube up like so, and then you put braces going back to your rear frame rails, and your 3rd link will connect right there. I showed you how to draw the frame out. Now I have to show you how to bend plastic without heating it up. Some of you guys are going to look at this and say, oh man, this is a lot of work. Yeah, and no, it is a lot of work, but you're going to get a pretty good result out of it, so pay attention to what I have to say. Usually, I would take 2 pieces and tack them together. The reason why is when you bend, you got 2 bends. You got one for one side, one for the other. So you're going to want your bends to be the same. And if you're trying to do them separately, it's very hard to get the bends the very same. So do two, and you'll have a much better job. Now, to bend the plastic, what I do, I shave out some plastic right here. Just make a cavity. I do it 0.02. That way when you put your fish plate in here, you're going to have a nice flush area. And your fish plate's what's going to hold your plastic. Alright, so all you have to do, put a few marks on it. Now for bends like this, you only have to do 3 little cuts. And you're not going to cut it all the way through. You're only basically just scratching the plastic. So put your first mark in the center of your cavity. Now your cavity's on the side here, and you're going to cut the top part. So put your first mark here, or your first cut. Come back, put your next cut, and then a cut on the other side. You don't have to cut all the way down through. If you're doing 2 pieces at once, like I showed you, just tacking them together, then you're going to want your cuts a little deeper. If you're only doing one at a time, then you basically just have to scratch the surface. Now to break these, you don't want to push too hard, you don't want to break them all the way through. Just use a pair of flat pliers, put it right up next to your cut, and use your thumb, and give it a little push. Now start from the back and work your way forward. You go up to the next one, give a little push, and a little push. Now you can make your bend. And because I have this on the wrong side, I'm going to go with this one here. And to get your shape, this is where your drawing comes in. You set it up to your shape. You get your little piece of plastic here. That fits nicely. I recommend the model cement. The reason why is the cement will melt the plastic together, and you're going to get a really good bond. Plus, it'll give you time to play with this. Now there's one thing I should have mentioned when I was drawing this out. At all your corners, right here, put a line. Your corner here, go from inside corner to outside corner and draw a straight line. Same thing here, 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 and here. This will give you your center to where you need to mark it. Because when you lay your piece up here, one thing is you're going to have some clamps. This is just a demonstration, so I'm not using the clamps. Now you have your center line, and you know where to mark it. And here you'll be marking it here, and then one on this side, one on this side. just make sure you make your cavity in here wider than your marks so you can take and glue it. And you can bend plastic both ways. This is this way. Now I'm going to show you how to bend it the other way. For this curve here, you're going to want to have more marks. We're going to go several of them. But same thing, put your marks on there, score it. I just use a razor blade, that's all you need. As you can see, it's very simple. Now, you're going to want a square when you're doing this. If you don't have a square, you're going to want something that is square. Now, for something like this here, all you have to do is use like a paint bottle, like a tester square paint bottle, and you can do your square that way. Alright, one little last tidbit on this. I'm going to explain the X-frame. I highly suggest doing two pieces at one time, having the ends the same, flush. All you have to do on here is set your piece up, put your marks on it, where I told you to draw a line through your corners. This is going to be your center bend. And all you have to do is one on one side and one on the other. You cut it, you break it, you glue the bends, your fish plates on, and you're ready to go. And after these are dry, then you can carefully cut it apart. Alright, your X-frame. You have it made, you have it apart. Now you have to get it together evenly. Alright, I told you it's 3/8 of an inch between the X-frame. So you cut two spacers, and I suggest just spacers for now, and glue them in between. And to get them straight, all you have to do is put your spacers in there, put it up against a flat edge like a board here, and clamp it down. You'll pretty much get a perfect X-frame. Alright, I showed you how to draw it out, I showed you how to bend plastic. Now I need to show you how to properly build a frame in correct steps. The first step, of course, is the outside frame rail. Now, one thing you're going to want to make sure is your frame is square. If it's not square at first, it's okay because it is quite springy, and you can always square it up with your X-frame and you put it in. But before you put your X-frame in, you're going to have to mark where your X-frame and your rear frame rail meet. And that's the simple part. And then all you have to do is line everything up and make sure it's all square. Go ahead and mark it and cut it. Your X-frame will fit right down in there. Your next step, and this is actually important, you do this now and not after you put your frame rails on. You have your X-frame, and now you have to do your exhaust tubes. Now keep in mind, when doing your exhaust tubes are the same size as your frame, 0.125. So you're not going to want to cut all the way through. And you really can't drill this. I've tried several times, and every time I've broke the plastic. So if you can do it, good for you. Thumbs up, you know. What I do, I have this really aggressive bit. It's for removing grout between tiles, and it works great at shaping plastic. And I just put my marks here, carefully lay it down, and let the bit do my cutting. Same thing for the back, and I do both pieces at the same time. When you do that, then you go ahead and lay your tubes down in, get them glued, get them dry, then go ahead and cut them at an angle and file them down and all the other good stuff. Alright, now you have your tubes in there and they're protruding from the bottom, so you no longer have a flat stance on this. What I do, I take a piece of wood, I lay it on here, I mark where the tubes are, I mark where the center cross member will be, I mark where these cross members will be, and I'll eke the wood out so I can have a flat area. Because the next build you're going to do will be the front frame rails. And these are fairly simple. If you know the width, then you can take the width and subtract it from your side rails and do the right cut. And what I do, get my front frame rails on there. At first, when I glue them on, I go ahead and set it on the side, put spacers underneath it so it's square all the way across. And once this starts setting up, then I will turn it over like so. I can't do it because I already have the front cross member in, but I will put the spacers underneath there so where it's level that way until it dries. And you do the same thing for the rear frame rails. One thing you're going to want to remember is do one at a time. Use the glue. The glue melts the plastic together. You get a great bond where the super glue is only the glue holding the plastic together. So do one at a time. Don't rush it, and you'll have a really good, strong frame. Your next piece you're going to want to make is your front cross member. Now your front cross member, it's not always right in the middle of your control arms. A lot of times it'll be off a little bit, and you'll have some tubes running out here that connects to your control arms. You'll see one side short and the other side is longer. Short in the front, longer in the back, or short in the back, longer in the front. Now, when making my cross member, I do it in two pieces. I bend the pieces together. At first, I glue them together just in little spots. Do my cutting, my fish plates, bending, and then I will set them together and match them. And when I match them, then I'll take one full piece of plastic and just glue it all the way on and clean the plastic off. Now when you're doing this, make sure you leave enough extra there so you're not too short in anywhere areas. It's easier to cut off than to add. Now your rear frame, you'll want to do that last. The reason why is it's easier to set the rear frame up to the rest of the car than it is to set the front frame up with the rear frame attached. So do your rear frame rails last, then you can go ahead and do your cross members. This one here you can do tubular or a square cross member. This is for your shocks to connect to. And then last but not least, you can make your rounded cross members here. Just do the same thing. You can cut it and bend it that way, or you can heat it up and bend it. It's awfully hard to heat it up and bend it and get them both the same, but it's not impossible to do. These ones here I actually heated up. I'm not real thrilled with how they turned out, but I can get them cleaned up enough. And then you can do your transmission mount. But you're going to want to have your frame in the car. You're going to want to have your firewall there so you can get everything set up correctly. And for your engine mounts, all I do is take some small rod, bend it, drill a little hole here, drill a little hole on the side, and that's the starting of your engine mount. Alright guys, I think that's it for the tutorial. The rest of it is up to you guys. I'll do a suspension tutorial sometime in the future. Not right now. Right now I want to get this frame cleaned up, filled in before I do any suspension, because I use very thin plastic for a lot of it. So I don't want any of that to be broken. So if you have any questions or any comments, please leave them below. I want to give a special shout out to Full Throttle Customs. I had a question in my last video and he was very quick to answer. So special thanks to him, special shout out. He does some excellent work, so if you have not been to his channel, go check it out. Some great builds. So one more thing before I leave this tutorial is if you build a frame, you have to show it. You have to show me the frame. There's no excuses not to. I've never seen anyone else build a Art Morrison frame. I know there's someone out there who probably has, but I've never seen it, so I want to see others build it. So that's the only stipulation on this. Good luck. Happy building. If you need help, I'm here to help.